What's up, everybody? Welcome to the Anime Association. And once again, I am your host, Kyle Tim times 10. And today we will be talking about My Hero Academia Vigilantes, Episode 2. But I have a co host and a guest, and I know they probably look familiar to you from the last episode. So I'll let my co host introduce himself first.
What's going on, guys? It's Anime Addict 1999.
And the day's guest.
Destnybrushz. What's going on, everybody? You're damn, I was trying to think of something snappy to say. I couldn't think. I watch anime.
It ain't quick on the feet today with it, huh?
I wasn't. I watch anime.
All right, so today was episode 2 of My Hero, and it picked right up from where it left off with the fight with Knuckle Duster and Eraserhead. And then Eraserhead tries to use his quirk and finds out it doesn't work, and he's very confused at first until he starts getting dusted off. So I just want to ask Attic, how'd you feel about that introduction of it?
Yeah, I really liked the fight and everything, and we kind of felt like last week with Knuckle Duster that he didn't exactly have a quirk, and they basically confirmed the fact this episode. So I thought that was interesting to kind of see Aizawa have like a different perspective of oh, I can't use my quirk against this guy.
Yeah, I really like that too, and I like how they introduced the aspect of him not having a quirk by having Eraserhead do it versus it's a show not tell type of thing. Don't tell us, and they exactly just showed it by using a quirk that erases these quirks. How'd you feel about the opening, Destiny?
I liked it. I liked, for one, that they just got right into it. Right after talking to us about it last week, just getting right back into it was fun. And I'll say that my first impression of it was because I read the manga, and I wanted to see how they were going to, because I'm not as far as I want to be, but they basically covered where I'm at, and I was happy to see how they really did a good job of summing up everything that was in the story up until the point where I was at. Like they did a really good job of so Solo Leveling cut out a lot of things and then didn't need to be cut out. They summarized things without cutting things out. So I
Okay.
like that. I
Like
like
not
seeing
cutting dialogue or action scenes, but kind of
exactly like,
streamlining it type of thing.
yeah, because like I said, the way Solo Leveling did it was just to cut. It was very lazy. Like, oh, don't keep that, don't keep that. But with this, they did that show don't tell by all of the stuff that was basically explained out. They just showed us it so that they didn't
Yeah,
need to. You know what I'm saying? Like, there's a
yeah,
lot of things I'll get into it, but I think they did a really good job of that.
that's what I really enjoyed about the beginning of it. Now, I know this takes place 5 years before the current series.
Uh-huh.
Is Aizawa a new hero at this point in time? I get the energy like he's fresh on the job. I don't know if I just like misunderstood what was going on, but he felt like because they didn't know who he was. So was he a new hero?
I mean, when we really think about it, Aizawa's not a, because they talk about number one heroes and stuff like that. Aizawa's not a number one hero. So it's also very, it could be either that he's just not as known as a lot of the other heroes, but it could also be that he is just fairly new, because and also he was a teacher. Uh Being a teacher and actually being a hero out there in the field is two completely different things.
Was
Because
he a
Endeavor
teacher at
was,
this point in time? I thought when he started, I thought when it started, like that was like his first or second year as being a teacher.
no, I'm saying period of even being a teacher, period. Like, usually those are the routes that they go, and one has more fame than the other. Like,
Yeah.
going the route of being a teacher, you're not gonna have as much attention as the one who goes the route of being a hero. So I'm making inferences that I don't know exactly, but these are the things that I would say of why they might not know about him, or he could just be new.
Yeah, yeah. Not. I mean that makes a lot of sense. Where he's more of a faculty type of character, a worker type of thing. And then after that, we see the villains from last episode show up, and of course they're boosted up by the drug. The toy man, the salary man, he was running off, uh, and then they're chasing after Nice and Pop Step, right? Yeah, that's her name, Pop Step. And of course, they're running off. They can't really handle them. But then Aizawa comes and grabs them, and he raises his quirk, which I have a question about that a little bit later on. But also, Knuckle Duster just comes in and dusts one of them off. And that was a pretty epic scene. It actually kind of reminded me of All Might, how he shows up and just knocks someone into the ground. I'm starting to see quite a bit of similarities between All Might and Deku and Knuckle Duster. Um, and then we see Toy Man become a 6'9" god and just transform. So how y'all feeling about that second part?
Another like comparison with him and All Might. I also kind of feel like he's the teacher in this role because Koichi was basically like calling him master, and so no, I feel like Knuckle Duster is basically All Might's role, and Koichi is Deku's role. So I kind of see those similarities there. But as far as the scene goes, Knuckle Duster is my favorite character by far. So I like how he takes it straight to them. I like how he just goes, goes for the blow, and him and Aizawa were kind of like arguing a little bit there, basically like how they see heroes and vigilantes taking out the villains. So I like that comparison, and I could also see the two of them like becoming rivals at some point.
Yeah, that's kind of what I started seeing. I'm pretty sure Aizawa is going to end up being prevalent in the series. I think we're going to start seeing him more and more, and he's going to be, like I said, more prevalent within the series. Maybe like fighting side by side and rivalry and things of that nature. Uh, what did you think about the second part of the episode, Destiny?
Um, again, like so I I don't know if you guys are going to, but I'll be the like resident letting you know what might, and it's always small things, but what might have been missing, right? So I enjoyed seeing. I enjoyed the first thing I enjoyed was the fight between him and Aizawa. I think that was done well. I think that they focused like a good enough amount of energy on that. I'm gonna ask you guys a question. Do you know where those guys came from? The guys that Aizawa basically neutralized.
You talking about the three villains from the first episode?
Yeah.
Uh, I'm guessing they just fell from the sky.
So they cut that, and I felt that was the only part of the episode that I was like, what just happened? Because they basically are like they show, hey, they got this, then they see them and it's like, hey, you again. They took the drug, they've got new powers. They did a show don't tell. They just had them show up, and then they was all freaking doing the Michael Jordan. They was all like, yeah, I'm gonna get you, so that we could see that their tongue was black,
yeah.
right? But that's how they summarized it. Because I was like, bro, what just happened? But
So how did they end up knowing that they were even in the park to begin with?
They just found them. So they got the drug from the dude. They got it. They they took everything, and then they were like, yo, there you go. It was like they just, because I mean, there's enough noise going on in the city that they would have found them, but they were just like, there you go. And then we're like, hey, now we get you again. But you know what I mean? That moment, it just went from Aizawa and them fighting to this dude just being chased by these three villains. And you're like, why were they being chased? Where did they come from? So it threw everything off. It was very like jarring just to all of a sudden see that. But they summed that up quick, got rid of them. Aizawa neutralized them and everything. And then the biggest part to me of the second half that I loved is two things. One, there's a whole scene of Knuckle Duster and and this guy, this Knuckle Duster and the Crawler being in the apartment talking, and he's explaining to him all these things about, like, you know, how to use his quirk and how to do this and how to do that. They sum those up in like flashbacks instead of giving us
that's actually something I was going to do next after that, because I had it broken up into 3 parts. That was in the third part after this fight, wasn't it? After the Aizawa stuff.
Yeah, it was right after that while he was fighting them. But the second thing was that I was just very happy that they covered up Pop Step. I am clapping for that, bro.
You're not gonna have to fight off all the TikTok commenters.
I still am, because I'm gonna make a video about how I celebrated it, and there's gonna be a whole bunch of weirdos in the comments talking about that was the worst part. Why would they take that out?
Yeah, it's crazy. I noticed that too. So with the thing I was wondering about Aizawa, I know his powers is pretty much temporary but total quirky razor.
Yeah,
I noticed when he used it on the guy with the spikes and then the toy guy, that he just kind of nullified the drug, but they still had their quirks activated. What do you think the reasoning behind that part was? Because I was expecting the toy guy to go slam back the human, but he still ended up in his quirk form.
I think it would depend, because the actual like quirk, the toy guy is different, but the other guy that he neutralized, that quirk, they have what's that thing called, the anthropomorphs or whatever. Like there's people that they just have that look, like they, no matter whether they're using their quirk or not, they got spikes coming out their face. So
okay, so you think that's what his quirk is one of those like body altering quirks?
Yeah, I think even for both of them, that this is already what they look like. And like, usually now the businessman, we could say who knows, but we could also say that this might be what he usually looks like, and he might have been suppressing it. Either way, it's like
he just had like a skin suit on or something.
Yeah, maybe, but it's like all he really does is he gets rid of the power, but how you look, you know what I mean? Because you got a bunch of these guys where that was that whole thing I was telling you about in season 7 that I hated, was that they were talking about the whole thing with like discrimination and how they were discriminated against, because you have the people who have quirks and still look human, and the people who have quirks and then they look like a reptile. So there's people that just because their quirk is gone, they still look like a spray bottle.
I guess it makes sense. I was thinking that with the toy guy, but not with the spikes guy. But we, like you just said, we saw the spray bottle, so it's not necessarily a beast type of animorph type of deal. It can really just be about anything. Do you have anything to add to that, Attic, about like it's seeming like he's not really neutralizing them?
Well, honestly, I didn't even fully catch that part. I thought that honestly he just like stopped the quirk altogether. But Destiny would know a lot more with the whole My Hero world than I do, so I'm just gonna take his word for it.
Yeah, he's just basically saying like, when they got neutralized, why didn't they turn back to looking like regular humans? And I was just saying that when he neutralizes the quirk, he doesn't neutralize the physical features that could happen as far as like what they actually look like. Because you have certain characters. There's a couple in the original My Hero Academia, like the dude that looks like a whale. If he neutralizes powers, that dude's still gonna look like a whale.
Yeah, so I think you are right about that part. At least the toy guy, the guy with the spikes. The guy with the spikes, it might have just been an oversight from the animation team, or it could just be like you said, a shell. He could just have like some type of animorph spike, porcupine type of quirk or something like that.
Because the thing that they're taking just amplifies it. So the guy with the spikes didn't originally look like that anyway. In episode 1, he looked like way more calm, but he always had spikes. So when he took the thing, all that thing does is it gives them an instant like boost
Yeah,
to
it
whatever they have
amplifies
already.
their
Yeah.
it amplifies their quirk. I'll have to go back and look at the first episode, or at least their introduction, to see if he always had the spikes. But then after that, as you were saying, they're in crawlers. I'm not going to call them crawler. I'm gonna call them crawler because that's hilarious to me.
In the
Uh,
manga, it's mad funny because they like, you're a donut. They go like, "Yeah, you're a donut."
yeah, that's hilarious to me. But they're in the apartment, and he ends up getting some armor and some biker stuff so he can move faster. And uh, Knuckle Duster is kind of explaining why he couldn't go as fast, or like you don't have to restrain yourself from going that fast. And then as they're fighting, the X-Men characters are fighting. That's when he gets the Cruller nickname. And then there's the Beast, the Rock Quirk guy. He's obviously on the trigger.
Yeah.
He knocks him out, but as he's doing that, he's very Knuckle Duster is very observant about quirks, and that's the very similar thing to me that Deku does. So it's kind of like people with no quirks, if they want to get into action, they kind of break down their quirks almost to a scientific level, almost type of thing, right?
They have to. They'll get cooked.
Yeah. And then after that, we get the whole detective scene where we see some familiar faces, and then he says the show title, Vigilantes, which that had me amped. You know, they said it. They said it. You know, and then it kind of ends right there. We get the hint that our protagonists are about to become the antagonists in the eyes of the police and the heroes. What did y'all feel about that?
Yeah, so that was actually another thing I wanted to point out was that the way that the detective was like wording it basically made it seem like now they're going to be deemed as criminals because they're going against the law. So I I'm personally a fan of anti-heroes, so I like this whole concept of like the vigilantes thing. Um but yeah, I'm very excited to see like what's going to happen now that they're going to be like maybe they'll have some altercations with some of the heroes or the just the police force or whoever. So I'm excited.
Yeah, so am I. I like how they and I like that seemed like the best way to end the episode, especially with the encounters with Aizawa and the type of conversations they were having. What did you get out of the third part of this episode, Destiny?
Well, I same thing really. I just you can see they kind of like operate in like at least Knuckle Duster. Knuckle Duster operates in like a weird area because he's not using a quirk. And the big part of their whole thing is like that Aizawa couldn't do anything to him because he's not using a quirk. So everybody else, they actually the person who's like doing more wrong is the crawler because he actually has a quirk, and using that quirk without permission, like without a license, and like fighting crime and stuff is the actual thing that's the most illegal. When they find Knuckle Duster ain't really doing that. Like him seeing something and stopping it, they don't really want him doing that either. But as you can see, what they said was they was like, "Yo, who did this to this guy?" Because he like
They thought
washed.
it was a quirk user
Yeah, it
that
was like,
did
"Yo,
it.
who did?" And they still don't know because Aizawa didn't tell them. But they were like, "Who did this?" Because that hero will lose their license for being too excessive. He's like, "You, this guy's not supposed to look like this right now. Where's that hero at?" Because he would lose his license. But the fact
Yeah,
of them finding out, they'll find out that it ain't a hero, and you can't get like. So it's like,
you can't do anything just off of him fighting somebody or something like that. Like you said, Crawler, he could get in trouble, and same thing with Pop Step for just using their quirks outside of possible limitations, which I actually completely forgot about in the first episode when he was using the skate around the city, he could technically get in trouble if the somebody seen it and was just like having a bad day or something, right?
Yeah,
But
like they're
then
supposed to. If you
we
notice,
get
like nobody else is using anything. It's just like him.
yeah, right. So I don't think it's just like a transportation quirk for the most part. But before all of that, after the first big fight of the episode, Aizawa catches Knuckle Duster walking through the alley, and they pretty much almost have a conversation about the morality of Knuckle Duster's actions about it. And Aizawa kind of already knew that he was a vigilante by the way he was talking to him. So, do y'all think he's operating in a very tricky morality scale type of thing?
You talking about Knuckle Duster?
Yeah,
I mean, yeah, I think any of the vigilantes kind of are. Um, it's you basically just like playing a game at this point because it's like you want to do right, but you're not licensed enough to be able to do so, but you still do it anyway. So it's like whoever is not a hero but they act like one is going to be playing on that thin line.
yeah, I totally agree with that. What do you feel? Do you feel, Destiny, that Aizawa's observation about what he's doing was spot on?
um, nah, I feel like it's one of those things where it's really up to perception. What they put before you is a really good example of what they've kind of done with a lot of things now, like the whole Attack on Titan thing. Like they put something before you that they don't give an answer to. They put two sides and then they go, who's right and who's wrong, and that's really up to, that's where you get the Jaegerists and the people who are over here, because they're like, who was wrong, who was right. You look at Devil May Cry is the same thing, like who was wrong, who was right. So I think it's really just about that you have an interesting dynamic of a conversation that goes on here where both sides just have points, and it's literally the same thing as Superman and Batman. Like it's like this whole thing has this undertone. I can't wait until the mangaka talks about it more. Maybe he has already. I'm gonna look it up. But like this guy is in love with American comics, and he's making
Yeah,
that known a lot. You have Batman and Superman. This is Batman's
X-Men.
whole deal. Batman's whole deal is being a vigilante, and how he's literally doing like the job that they can't do. And then when Superman and him meet, it's like the same dynamic of, bro, what are you doing? And he's like, I'm doing this. And he's like, no, you're dangerous. He's like, yo, I'm doing and
Yeah, I kind of I agree the same way of the you can definitely see his western influences. Like you said, Knuckle Duster kind of covers the Batman aspect of the hero life, and then you had like obviously the X-Men with the Cyclops and Wolverine, and like we said last time, you get like the action words and stuff coming up. But I agree with pretty much what y'all are saying, that he's definitely working in an area of gray morality, because if he catches somebody before they do something, then that's a good thing. But if he fights somebody and knocks him out that was never going to be bad, then obviously that's a bad thing. But before we wrap it up, I want to know what y'all final words on the episode is, starting with Destiny.
my final word is I really like I like all of the knockoff like American DC and Marvel characters and stuff. I am I still okay? I like that. Um, I also I also can't wait to see Monkey D. Doofy. I can't wait
Uh,
to see. I can't wait to see Monkey D. Doofy. I hope they animate that shit.
yeah, that would be funny. That would definitely be funny to see animated, especially if they make him look more like Luffy in the animation. So what's your final word, Addict?
Also, my final word was cover up. Keep covering up. Pop step. Keep covering. Yo, bro, they had a direct, crazy shot. I don't know why that camera was there when she was walking away at the end. It was a direct shot, like right in the crazy area. And you know how in animes, like when somebody get hit, they black it out.
Yeah,
they blacked it. I was like, yes.
they
Somebody
put
has
the
a heart
shadowing
over it.
effect on there.
Oh
Yeah.
man, put some pants on them, man. Something.
Yeah. So Addict, what's your final words about the episode?
Yeah, overall, I liked it a lot better than episode 1, and I'm not saying episode 1 was bad, but it was just basically like an introduction into the show, and this was basically throwing, water on the flames, and we got to see everything just like a giant train just going down the tracks. So, overall, I like this episode a lot better.
Yeah, I think it's definitely has me wanting to tune in next week. I don't think it slowed down at all. It definitely picked up the speed, and we're getting more questions, a little bit more mystery going on as the series develops, especially with the trigger, and then now we have the police and detectives, and possibly even more heroes than just Aizawa put in there. But with that, I think it's about time that we close it out. And if Destiny, where can they find you, and what do you have going on?
Oh, Destnybrushz is on everything. Destnybrushz is on everything, on every platform. And what I got going on is more content, more watching live at 5 with all of you guys over on IG, and more content. And now I'm gonna be doing push-ups on Elden Ring. I'm going to play some Elden Ring. 10 push-ups every time I
And Addict, where can they find you at, and what do you have got going on?
You can find me Anime Addict 1999 on Instagram and YouTube, and just reactions, reviews, news, edits, anything anime.
Nice. And once again, I was your host, Kyle Tim. And down below in the description, you will be able to find not just my social or the association socials, but you'll also be able to find Anime Addict socials and Destnybrushz, along with the schedule of what all three of us have got going on. So with that, we'll end that here and hope to catch you next week. Peace.